Are you looking for some resources that will keep your middle school music classes engaged and learning for a full year? Then this video is for you. I'll be sharing 10 resources that will make it easier to keep your music students learning all year long. Hi, my name is Jooya from Jooya Teaching Resources, and I'm a music teacher with over 20 years of experience in the grade 7 to 12 music classroom. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 resources that you can use to teach your middle school music classes all about rock music, and it will last the whole year. So let's get started. Music rock and roll resources to engage your music classes all year long. So welcome, and I can guarantee you that the resources that I'm about to show you do last a whole year. This is what I used to use for my year 8 students, okay? And I would teach them, I changed schools, so I don't teach music in year 8 anymore. I only teach it in year 7. But these resources would last you a whole year, okay? A whole year of lessons. It'll keep them going. They'll love it. And the thing is that I liked about these resources is that my kids would always choose music as an elective as a result of doing music in year 8 with these resources. So if you want to build up your music program and you want to give your kids a great experience, then try these resources. Hi, I'm Jooya from Jooya Teaching Resources, and my mission is to help busy music teachers like you in classrooms around the world with resources you need to teach music appreciation to inspire the next generation of musicians. Now, before we get started, this whole bundle that I'm going to show you, all the parts to it, does go for a whole year. But if you're looking to change up your music curriculum resources in some way, come and grab this freebie, okay? It's a download. It's, as I said, free. You just have to go to juliajooya.com/makeover your music curriculum, and it'll give you 5 different things that you need to consider when you're making over your music curriculum. The music of rock and roll has had a profound impact on the world of music and popular culture. Its influences can be seen in a wide variety of musical genres, from punk rock to hip hop, and its musical legacy continues to inspire new generations of musicians. For middle school music teachers looking to introduce their students to the history and culture of music and rock and roll, there are a wealth of classroom-tested resources available. In this video, we will explore 10 of the best resources for teaching a whole full year of music rock and roll appreciation in the middle school music classroom. From music rock and roll lesson plans and music analysis activities, these resources offer a variety of approaches to exploring the genre and can help students develop a deeper understanding and appreciation for rock and roll music. But before we get started, what is rock? Okay, what is rock and roll? Before diving into the music rock and roll resources that will last you for a full year, it's important to know what rock music is. Rock music, also known as rock and roll, is a genre of popular music characterized by its energetic rhythms, amplified electric guitars, and strong vocals. Emerging in the 1950s, rock music combines elements of rhythm and blues, country, and gospel. It embodies a rebellious spirit, challenging societal norms and pushing musical boundaries. With its powerful guitar riffs, driving bass lines, energetic drumming, and dynamic vocals, rock music creates a visceral and intense musical experience. It has produced iconic artists and bands that have left an indelible mark on popular culture. Incorporating the music of rock and roll into music education can provide your students with a diverse musical experience, deepen their understanding of the genre, and encourage creativity and teamwork skills. So, as I said, all the things I'm going to talk about in this, the rest of this video are all the resources that were specifically designed and created. I created them years ago to use with my year 8 students, because we were having, look, the problem was we had kids and they just weren't engaged in the class. And like year 8 kids, we're talking 13, 14-year-olds. Oh, geez, they can be tough. okay? And it's hard to get them engaged, and it's hard to get them into the classroom and actually enjoying class. So that's why these lessons were developed and taught. And I said, look, I've taught these year on year on year, even with older year groups, because it keeps the kids going. They actually enjoy it. And especially when you combine it with using, like, performing things on like guitar, bass, drums, adding in vocals, and getting the kids actually to perform pieces of music that they're studying, they will love it. Okay. It is a really great set of lessons and resources that your kids will enjoy using. So as I said, there's 10 resources in the bundle, and we're going to look at each one of these. So this is what the bundle looks like over my Teachers Pay Teacher store, Jooya Teaching Resources. That's the cover. Now, this cover actually has the 4 units. So what you get is the 4 units plus a whole heap of other resources that go along with it. So it'll keep your kids going. So I'm going to go each of the units in order that I would teach them. And I suggest if you buy the bundle, this is the order you should teach them as well, because it makes sense to do it this way. So the origin of rock music, okay, African and jazz music. So the first unit of work to start your music rock and roll journey is the beginnings of rock, African and jazz. In this unit of work, there is a focus on the origins of rock music and the captivating journey that takes middle school students through a rich tapestry of musical influences. Starting with the rhythms, melodies, and unique instruments and storytelling traditions of African music, students will explore how these elements found their way to the United States during the era of slavery, becoming integral to the development of jazz music. Now, I'm an Australian teacher. I'm, as you can tell probably from the accent. Now, when I do the African unit, I generally teach, we do djembe drumming. And the reason we do that is because obviously we have a set of djembes, but, you could, depends on what instrument you have available. And we also look at percussion instruments, so tune percussion, so your xylophones, glockenspiels, because it works nicely as classroom instruments, and it lends itself to African music. And the thing is, if that will lead on to an assignment, which I'm going to talk about later. But the thing is, it gets the kids involved straight away. They will really enjoy playing the djembes if you have them available, but any sort of hand drums that you have available will work. Now, the thing is, kids love doing this. Now, as an Aussie, I like to link this to the African music and the storytelling traditions to Aboriginal music, because as I said, that's something I need to focus on as an Australian teacher. But wherever you are in the world, think about how you can link it to your Indigenous people of wherever you actually are, your folk music traditions, because it helps to actually link it for your kids, and it makes it a bit more tangible for them and something they can actually grab a hold of. The unit will then delve into the origins of jazz music. So it goes from African into jazz. Students will explore the instruments that are used in jazz music, the rhythms of jazz, as well as listen to some popular jazz standards that are still popular today. This study of African and jazz music sets a foundation for the music of rock and roll, and will help your music students to appreciate the origins and roots of music of rock and roll. Embedded into this unit are African folk tunes to play and perform on classroom instruments, along with several elements of music listening activities for African and jazz music. So in the unit, you'll actually get a couple of African folk tunes that I've used for years. There's plenty out there. You don't have to use those particular ones, but they're nice and easy, and there's lots of flexibility in the pieces that I've given you. The two are Obi Senyana and Banawa, and they work really nicely with the assignment that you're actually going to give them. So I always pre-teach it and then give them the assignment and let them loose. So they have a lot of fun doing that. So usually this is the first assessment. So this would be my term 1 music unit. And the thing is, I've got to have something to assess, and that's why I do the performance and composition assessment on a folk tune, because then you've got something to actually put into your reports. So this is what it looks like, the African beginnings of rock music, African and jazz. Now, it's also fun, like depending if you have instruments, what you've got available and what your kids are capable of, but, introduce some jazz standards, like When the Saints Go Marching In. Sorry, I'm trying to think of some other ones that I usually use off the top of my head. Can't remember, but look, there's plenty of jazz standards out there that your kids will actually enjoy playing. And again, get them involved in the lessons, not only learning about it, get them listening about it, but get them playing. So the next unit is unit number 2, rock music history, the pioneers of rock and roll. So from there, I said, that's a really brief introduction, and it's meant to be because the focus then goes on to actually other rock musicians, and the whole year will then take them up to popular music, okay, music of current day, which depends on what you do. Anyway, we'll get there. The next unit is to continue rock and roll journey is the history of rock music, pioneers of rock. So in this unit, your students will be immersed in the electrifying world of rock music when captivating there shines a spotlight on the origins and pioneers of rock and roll. Now, I have another video on this channel that talks about this unit a bit more in depth, but you can have a look here. I said it briefly goes through, and it says your students will explore the dynamic sounds of spirit of rock and roll, and it takes them on a journey, and they look at things like what started rock and roll, so the development of rock and roll, country music, rhythm and blues. They look at Fats Domino, they look at Elvis, they look at Buddy Holly, Bill Haley and the Comets. And again, it gives you pieces of music to play, pieces of music to listen to, pieces of music to just to enjoy. Okay. And so normally when I'm teaching this unit, I'm not necessarily assessing anything, but I'm building my kids, their skills in performing and building their listening skills, because that again will be another assignment that I would do later on in the year. So incorporated into this unit of work are links to suggested pieces of music to play, as well as listening activities for the 8 elements of music, focusing on the musicians and their music that are actually featured in the unit of work. Now, you could choose to actually use different pieces of music. It's up to you. But look, the pieces of music that are in there, they're tried and tested. The kids usually enjoy them. Even if they don't particularly like it, they get it. It's funny because the kids will say they don't like it, but they're bopping along and they're tapping, their heads are bopping and they're tapping along and pretending to drum and all those sorts of things. So, they might tell you they don't like it, but I think deep down they do. And as you can see, this is the pioneers of rock. So it goes into the blues. So you look at then introducing the 12-bar blues, play the 12-bar blues. I've got stacks of resources in my TPT store about 12-bar blues for ukulele and guitar. To go and have a look at those. Development of rock and roll. As I said, you look at Fats Domino, Buddy Holly, Bill Haley and the Comets, and Elvis. So the third unit, music, rock and roll, the instruments of rock and pop. So this is where I get my kids to actually focus on instruments that are actually in that, because it's a bit more of a listening assignment. Again, I'm building their skills into a listening test that we'd do later in the year, or maybe a listening assignment. I've done both, it depends on what your kids are. And honestly, with COVID the last few years, assessments sort of gone out the window. So it's all right. We get there in the end anyway. All right, so the next unit of work to continue your music rock and roll journey is to study the instruments of rock and pop. This fun and hands-on practical unit of work focuses on the instruments of rock and roll and popular music. It is a highly engaging way to introduce middle school students to the different sounds and elements of music rock and roll. This unit does cover the various instruments commonly used in rock and roll, such as electric guitar, bass guitar, drums, keyboards, as well as their respective roles in creating the characteristic music sound of rock and roll. Now, the thing is, again, I like to introduce this. Normally when I'm doing this one, I will teach kids how to do a basic drum beat. So we try and encourage some kids to actually start drumming. You'll find that that's an actually very interesting experience for the kids. You can see how coordinated some of them are. But it's a good way to introduce the bass guitar, introduce keyboards, introduce the guitar, and get the kids like playing on lots of different instruments and having a go, and playing things like the 12-bar blues, playing chord progressions that are commonly used in rock music and pop music, any 4-chord progression. Like seriously, most pop songs are built around a 4-chord progression. So getting the kids playing those different types of songs and getting them to play together as a class in small groups and on different instruments, and then looking at the roles of it. So again, the listening lessons focus on that. What are the roles instruments doing in each of the pieces of music? So by studying the musical instruments and techniques used in a music, rock and roll and popular music, your music students will gain a deeper appreciation for the technical and creative aspects of music making. They will also have the opportunity to experiment with these instruments themselves, whether through playing or listening exercises, and develop their own musical tastes and preferences. Overall, this unit of work on the instruments of music, rock and roll is a fun and interactive way to help your middle school students explore the different sounds and elements of this exciting genre. Now, depending on what you're teaching and when you're teaching and all those sorts of things, I've already, like, by this stage, I've already done like guitar and ukulele in year 7, but I would progress them in year 8. And what we would do is I'd teach them, even just on guitars, because there's never enough bass guitars, which is fine, but teach them a 12-bar blues bass line, teach them some guitar riffs, teach them all those things that go with rock music so that they actually start to develop those skills. So this unit of work also has several links to several pieces of music to learn. Again, like chords, as well as the songs to listen to, as well as, I should say, lots of elements of music listening activities for each rock music instrument studied. And it's fun because, the kids will get to hear, like, you even look at the saxophone, the rock keyboard, all sorts of instruments, and how those instruments are actually featured in rock music itself. And as I said, it's a good way to introduce the instruments, get them actually familiar with it. If you've got enough electric guitars, get them having a go on it. Again, have them give them a chance to actually play a drum kit. It's a lot of fun. And if you don't have the drum kit, a good way to do it is chair drumming. Make sure you have some drumsticks in their hot little hands, and pretend, like, give them the action of actually playing the drum kit. What they need to do with their feet and whatever else on an actual chair or on the floor. That's another good way to do it, just to get them going, so that they can experience it. And then when they get on the drum kit, they'll realize they can or can't do it. Because let's face it, most kids either can or can't do it. The last unit of work, okay, popular rock and roll musicians. Now, by the time I've got to this, normally I will do an assignment where I say to the kids, okay, you've got to go choose a piece of music that you like and a rock musician you like, and give them that sort of assignment, and that's their listening assignment. Then we also do a performance assignment, but there's another one you'll see in a minute, which is another more creative one, and a fun one to do at the end of the year. So the final unit of work for your music rock and roll journey is to study kings and queens of rock and pop music. So this unit of work delves into the key musical figures of rock and pop from the 60s to today, and is an enriching way to introduce middle school students to the influential artists who have shaped the landscape of music, rock and roll. This unit explores the iconic musicians and bands and solo artists who have left an indelible mark on the genre of popular music as a whole, from the Beatles to the Rolling Stones in the 60s, to David Bowie, to Queen, Madonna, Michael Jackson, INXS, Kylie Minogue. There's that many in there, it's not funny. You have to choose. I've even put like Beyonce, Bruno Mars, and even some Taylor Swift. You choose which ones you want to study. You don't have to do them all. You might not have time to do them all. But the thing is, when I am doing this at the end of the year, in term 4 is always a very interrupted term for me when I'm teaching. There's so many other things going on. So when you're doing just a single lesson on a single artist, the kids they're not sort of missing too much, if that makes sense, because it's a standalone lesson. So then when they come back, and whoever's in there and out there, because it's usually crazy, it doesn't really matter what they've actually covered and what they haven't covered, because they're still learning the same sort of skills. It just happens to be a different musician or band that we're actually looking at. Led Zeppelin's in there. Oh, geez, there's that many, it's not funny. So by studying the work of these key musical figures, students will analyse their unique styles, musical innovations, and cultural impact. They'll also develop a deeper understanding of the evolution of rock and pop music, the social political context that influence these artists, and the ongoing relevance of this genre of music today. This unit of work on the key musical figures of music and rock and roll provides middle school students with an opportunity to explore and appreciate the immense talent and creativity of these influential artists throughout the decades. Again, in this unit, there is plenty of pieces of music to play, as well as study and listen to. So you can choose, and you might go, okay, well, there's another version of that song by that same artist, and we're going to listen to that one. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter what you actually choose to do, as long as you're giving your kids a really nice, broad listening experience. And as you can see, Kings and Queens, we've got the Beatles, we've got Aretha. You can't go past do any study on rock and roll without having Aretha Franklin in there, as far as I'm concerned. Lots and lots of different musicians, and a good broad range of them. So it's not just a very narrow view. So as I've said in other videos before, what I tend to do with all of my units of work is break up the lessons. So one lesson we might do, say the Beatles, okay, and we read the information, we listen to things. You can see there's a link to Beatlemania, what it was crazy, and you know how people were crazy about them. And then we might write a bit of information about it. Then we'll play something. And a perfect one to go with the Beatles is Twist and Shouts, 3 chords, nice and simple. And you know, then the next lesson we might listen to something from the Beatles and play some music. Then we come in the next lesson, we might look at then the next person, who say it's Aretha Franklin or the Rolling Stones, do a bit of information, play one of their songs. Next lesson, listen to one of their songs, and then again, track lesson. So that's the way I break it up. So I said there's 2 assessments that are included in this one. Again, you should do some sort of performance assessment, and that's an easy one. I don't think that anyone really needs to include that one. But this first assessment is the African composition assessment. Now, that's deliberately set up to, and I would assess them for both composition and performance. Okay, and it's actually got a writing part in it as well, because when I created this one, the school I was teaching at the time had a big literacy push, and we had to do a peer review. Like, you know, we had to incorporate writing into every assignment, which is not always easy when you're teaching music, but it does have it in there. You only have to choose to do whatever you want to do. So again, this unit I teach, I would always do with, this assessment with the beginnings of rock, which is the African and jazz unit. So the African Music Composition Project is a fun, engaging music assessment that allows middle school students to explore rhythms and melodies of African music. In this project, students arrange and perform an African folk tune on classroom-tuned and untuned percussion instruments, incorporating their own original rhythmic and melodic ostinatos to enhance the composition. Through this process, students will develop their listening, composing, and performing skills, as well as gain an understanding of the cultural and historical context of African music. Now, I said I'll give you a couple of different African folk tunes to play, but you can choose to do something else. Again, I teach my kids how to play them all. We do class arrangements of them all, and then I let them go into small groups. Now, I have to tell you, some classes never get to go into small groups. They just can't cope with it. Like, let's be honest, some classes cannot work in small groups. They are just not able to do that. That's fine. Do it as a class assignment, a whole class assignment, and get the kids involved that way and say, okay, who can come up with a rhythmic ostinato to go with this? What's a melodic ostinato? Who'd like to play this? Who'd like to play that? And again, come up with it themselves. How are you going to arrange it? Who's going to play when? How many times we're going to play it? What's the introduction going to be like? How are we going to end it? All those sorts of questions. And again, I do that as a whole class anyway. And then most classes are more than capable of creating their own. Some classes are not. And that's okay. You just do it as a class assignment. Additionally, students will write a music review of another group's composition performance, and which will encourage them to reflect on their own work and provide constructive feedback to their peers. Again, that's something I would do in class, in terms of we would actually look at everybody's, because I always video all the performances. And in fact, I've got stacks of videos, but I'm not about to show you because it has my kids in it. But the thing is, you show a video and you go, all right, let's have a look at this, and we talk about it. And again, the peer review is all stepped out and scaffolded out so that you can get some information, and there's also some samples in there. This project has the potential to foster a sense of community and collaboration as students work together to create a cohesive and engaging musical piece. Overall, the African Music Composition Project is a fun and meaningful music assessment that allows middle school students to explore the rich rhythms and melodies of music, rock and roll, while developing their musical and critical thinking skills. Kids love working together, and given the opportunity, I'll tell you, when you let them have start this assignment, and when they're all working in groups, in the classroom, it's chaos. And at the end of the lesson, you walk out going, oh my goodness, what did I just do? But the kids get so much out of it when they actually get to present their own performances. And it really is a really fantastic assignment to do. So as you can see there, there's a task description, ABC Senior, that's just a cover. But you can see there, I make it so that, you know, I'm not asking my kids to read music. It's really, really simple. So G, C, G, G, A, G, G, E, E, D, D, E, da, 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 da. And I normally would teach them how to sing it first, especially ABC Senior. And if they can sing it, they can play it. And then we create, there's ostinatos there, but you can create your own. And I encourage the kids to create their own as well. So the next assignment that will give your students a chance to unleash their creativity is the rock music design project. Now, this works best when you're completing the Kings and Queens of Rock and Pop. It's a great end of year activity, but I've also used it now for whatever reason, whenever someone's done the timetable, we don't have enough music teachers at the school. So even though my kids are supposed to do 5 music lessons over a fortnight, they'll have 4 generally with a music teacher and 1 with an art teacher. Now, when they're doing that lesson with the art teacher, I give the art teacher this rock music design project, and the kids will take quite a while because it's only 1 lesson every 2 weeks to actually complete this in class. So that's how I've used it the last few years. But prior to that, I used to get the kids to actually do it themselves. And honestly, the kids love doing it. They love being able to show you their things. Some kids would get so enthusiastic and create their own T-shirts and actually make a T-shirt or create a CD. The kids, they really enjoy doing this assignment. So the Rock Music Design Project is a fun and creative music assessment that encourages middle school students to explore the marketing and branding aspects of music rock and roll. In this project, students choose a musician or band and create a logo, T-shirt design, and other marketing materials that represent the artist and their music. So we're talking about they create a fake on paper Facebook page and Instagram thing, but it's called something else because I can't put that in the actual thing. Years ago when I did this One Direction was the thing. I mean, this shows how long I've been teaching, but One Direction was the thing, and all the girls were obsessed with 1D. And I literally had to put a ban on it, say no one is allowed to base their project on One Direction. You have to find somebody else, because I was getting that many. It wasn't funny. And then, you know, when you give them the chance, it's like, no, we're not doing that. So, you know, you might want to put limits on it and or whatever. It could be even a fake one. And I've had kids do that themselves as well. In this creative assignment, students will learn about the visual and promotional elements that help make a music rock and roll so popular and successful. They will also develop their design and marketing skills, as well as their ability to think creatively and critically about how to promote a product or service. This project can also be a great way to incorporate other subjects, such as graphic design, into the music curriculum, or art, or textiles, or design and technology. Overall, the rock music design project is an engaging and hands-on assessment that allows middle school students to apply their creativity and knowledge to a real-world scenario in the context of music rock and roll. Because if the kids are going to be a musician in today, they need to know how to promote themselves. They need to know how to do these things, because otherwise they're not ever going to be seen or discovered, because things have changed so much. But, you know, let's face it, they could actually record stuff themselves and they could easily put it up onto YouTube, but they need to be able to create a Facebook page. They need to be able to have an Instagram account that goes along with whatever their music business is. And as you can see, here we go. That's a past student's example. You can see there, and the assignment, and they said they get to design a T-shirt. They don't have to make one, but some of them do. CD cover, which I know it really is sort of not it, but, you know, lots of fun. The kids love it. So that's 6 resources, but there's another 4 that you get in there. Okay, so along with these, you get for the 4 complete music curriculum resources and the 2 assessments, there's some other resources that are included in this music year-long curriculum. The collection of resources in this bundle offers a variety of activities, worksheets, and lessons to enhance the middle school music education, particularly in music rock and roll. So this bundle has 2 different paragraph writing templates. So because that's because I've worked in a couple of different schools, and they've keep changing the paragraph writing because, you know, literacy, we have to do these things. So Peel was one of them, and TXXC is another. And honestly, my school that I'm taking a break at the moment, but what I was teaching it, they were TXXC, and they changed it to TXXL last year. There's that many different versions out there, but you'll be able to find something that will work. The thing is, this is talking about the elements of music. This is talking about getting kids to listen to a piece of music, write critically about it, answer questions, and then put it into the paragraph structure. And there's plenty of the scaffolds there, and it steps the kids through that actual writing structure. But it's a handy skill to have, because especially if you want kids to go on to music, to do music in 9s, 10, 11, and 12, they need to be able to write about music in a critical way. And that's where I actually do an assignment with this one, depending on the structure, but I get the kids to choose one piece of music, okay? And they have to answer all the questions on that one piece of music about the one they've chosen. So they look at each of the elements and then they write the paragraph. So it becomes a music essay, essentially, because they've actually done 8 different paragraphs on the actual piece of music they chose to study. And the best thing about that is I get them to do that in class. That is the assessment. It's much better than the listening test. I'm sorry, but I gave up on those sorts of listening tests years ago, because I found, kids guessed too much, because I really get to see what they do and don't know. So in addition to the bundle is the rhythm music theory and the pitch music theory worksheets. Now, these resources delve into the fundamental aspects of rhythm and pitch, providing students with a solid foundation in understanding and applying these concepts in their musical endeavours. Overall, the Music Rock and Roll Bundle offers an invaluable toolkit for middle school music educators, providing engaging and comprehensive materials for teaching the elements of music writing and music theory in the context of music rock and roll. Now, those 2 particular booklets, okay, I actually never printed out for students to actually do as a worksheet on their own. It was designed so that you'd print, say, enough for 1 between 2, and they would actually put all the, do the actual questions and their answers into their own exercise book, okay, their own writing book, whatever you want to call it. That way I wasn't forever printing. Okay. And I do that with all my units at work too. I'd bundle it all together so that they would actually get, the kids would actually have a copy, and then they could see what was on the board. And again, I'm not doing worksheets all the time, because we write into their own actual books. So here's the two different ones, Peel and TXXC. And again, you can see that they've got dynamics, harmony, performing media, and essentially look, they're the same questions. It's just how the scaffold for the actual paragraph is, whether it be Peel, which is point, explain, expand, link, I think. And the next one is the TXXC, which is topic, explain, expand. I can't remember. I should know, but I can't remember. I haven't used them for a while. And then there's the rhythm theory and the music treble worksheets. Now, that rhythm music theory worksheets one, that's my best-selling product in my store. So you get that in the bundle. So it goes without saying that introducing rock and roll music appreciation into the middle school music classroom brings forth a myriad of benefits. Not only does it offer an engaging and relatable way for students to connect with music, but it also provides an opportunity for them to explore a rich cultural and historical heritage. Rock and roll's infectious rhythms, rebellious spirit, and diverse subgenres allow students to broaden their musical horizons, fostering creativity and self-expression. By studying the evolution of music rock and roll, students develop a deeper understanding of its profound impact on society, both past and present. Moreover, the study of this music genre encourages collaboration as students become together to form bands, experiment with different instruments, and perform music rock and roll hits. By embracing rock and roll music in the middle school classroom, you will not only ignite a passion for music, but also inspire lifelong appreciation for the transformative power of music itself. Now, I can tell you that I've had kids that actually finished year 12 last year, who started working together in year 7, thanks to the African music assignment, and they've still got a band now. They're still a band. Okay, they've developed, obviously they didn't keep playing percussion instruments, but they started that in year 7, and they've developed and gone on to actually win a couple of awards. So this is the sort of thing, the power that when you give the kids the opportunity to do something and something they enjoy, how much of an influence and impact it can make on their lives. So if you'd like some more ideas to make over your music curriculum, because maybe it's a bit stale, obviously you can go get the bundle and you've got a year's worth of resources. But if you want some other ideas, go to jooya.com/makeover your music curriculum and get your freebie there. If you'd like a copy of the Elements of Music mind maps, which are used on all of my Elements of Music blog posts on my site, which is jooyajooya.com down there, you can see that. You can go grab that, the jooyajooya.com free mind maps, because that's a really great tool to use in class as well. And if you'd like to know more about the Elements of Music, because that's sort of woven into all of my units of work, so if you want more help with that and explaining what the Elements of Music are for each of those things, go to my website, jooyajooya.com. And of course, you can buy the bundle over at my Teachers Pay Teacher store, which is Jooya Teaching Resources. And if you've got this far, thank you so much for watching. So I hope I've inspired you to actually think about teaching rock and roll music in your middle school music class. As I said, I've used it. It was developed because we saw a need and we were having a decline in numbers in music, kids choosing music to do music in 9, 10, 11 and 12. Once we started using these units of work, our numbers went up. And we would have, instead of maybe one class in year 9 and 10, 3. Okay, one in year 9, 1 year 10, and the last school I was teaching at was a mix of 9 and 10. Like we would have what they call the stage 5, 5Y class, or the Y elective, where it was kids from both 9 and 10 in it. Honestly, I can't tell you how much I love teaching it. These units. They are fun. The kids love them. They're learning and they're enjoying music, and that's essentially all you want them to do. You actually just want your kids to enjoy music and come to class wanting to be there and having fun. So hopefully, as I said, I've given you some inspiration. You can pop over and go grab the bundle. You could grab individual units as well. You don't have to buy the bundle, but you can get the individual units to try them out with your kids. Until next time, I'm Julia from Jooya Teaching Resources. Happy teaching. Bye.